Good. Perfect. So the last time we discussed was on auditor's report. We discussed the auditor's report. Today we want to look at legal and professional framework of an audit. I hope we've not discussed that. All right. Legal and professional framework of an auditor. You may hear some people calling it legal and professional framework of an accountant. They call it legal and professional framework of an accountant. It's still very okay. Because who is an auditor? An auditor is a qualified accountant. An auditor is a qualified accountant. So it will be very correct. It will be very correct to say so. It will be very correct to say so. Let me guide you on what we are supposed to discuss in this topic. So we are supposed to look at appointment of an auditor. Appointment of an auditor. Capital B, we look at remuneration. Remuneration. Capital C, we look at removal of an auditor from office. Capital D, we look at resignation. Resignation. Capital E, we look at qualifications. Qualifications. Capital F, look at rights. Capital G, we look at duties. Capital H, we look at auditor's liability. Capital I, we look at fundamental ethical principles of an accountant. But I is another topic on its own, but we'll discuss them in this order. So when you hear we've done I, that will be topic number 5. That will be topic number 5. When we'll be doing I, when we'll be doing I. All right. Starting with A. Yes, will this be legible? Yes, appointment. Appointment of an auditor. Appointment of an auditor. Yes, you need first to list this down. It will act as our marking scheme to check the match you've been able to cover. So appointment of an auditor, remuneration of an auditor, removal of an auditor from office, resignation, qualifications, rights of an auditor, duties of an auditor, auditor's liabilities, and fundamental ethical principles of an accountant, fundamental ethical principles of an accountant, fundamental ethical principles of a. All right, now about appointment. We have 3 appointing authorities who can appoint an auditor in office. Number 1, we have shareholders. Shareholders are the first persons who can appoint an auditor in office. They do so during an AGM. During an AGM. So they appoint an auditor during an AGM. I hope it's legible. Yes. Mr. Mark amenipea kalamu mpya. Sasa najua lazima itumike kidogo ndio kuwe pana kiasi. So shareholders, they appoint an auditor during an AGM. That's one of the primary activities undertaken during the AGM. Then we have number 2, directors. Directors can appoint an auditor, and basically what they do, they appoint the first auditors. First auditors before the first AGM, is held. You see that directors will appoint the first auditors before the first AGM is held, because basically shareholders have not gotten any chance to appoint one. So they will appoint one to hold office until the first AGM. Now during the AGM, the shareholders can exercise their right to appoint an auditor. Another instance that a director will appoint an auditor is in case of a casual vacancy. Casual vacancy arises when an auditor dies in office. Dies in office or is incapacitated. Tunajua this from law. Yes, unakuta from law. Wanna discuss some incapacitation. Like minors cannot enter into a contract, that's an incapacitation. They cannot own a driving license. So an auditor will be incapacitated if his practicing certificate has been suspended, practicing certificate has been withdrawn, maybe for some gross misconduct or such. So in these two circumstances, the directors will appoint an auditor to hold office until the next AGM, when the shareholders will appoint an auditor. There is another instance that a casual vacancy will arise, but the directors will not appoint an auditor. Let me put it here, but I'll cancel it. Resignation. When an auditor resigns. So in nitaiweka hivi, ujue kwamba hii is a casual vacancy. But when this arises, yes, an EGM will be convened. An EGM will be convened where shareholders will appoint an auditor. So get this right. Instances where casual vacancy arises: death of an auditor being incapacitated, an auditor resigns. In instances of death or incapacitation, directors will appoint an auditor to hold office until the next AGM. When an auditor resigns, yes, it's a casual vacancy, but in this case, directors will not appoint an auditor. An extraordinary general meeting will be convened where shareholders will appoint an auditor. An EGM will be convened where the shareholders will appoint an auditor. Excellent. Another appointing of auditor, Roman number 3, is the registrar. Registrar of companies. Registrar of companies at a point. When does he or she appoint? When the two fails to appoint an auditor, then what directors do, for some reasons, the directors will notify the registrar, will give registrar 14 days notice. Yes, 14 days notice to appoint an auditor in event that shareholders and directors have not appointed one. Basically, the law takes effect. So registrar is coming in when the shareholders and directors have failed to appoint an auditor, and they give him 14 days notice. We are talking of this because we have number 4. Although number 4 is not an appointing authority, but it's a way that auditors may find themselves in office rather. We talk of automatic reappointment. How does automatic reappointment happen? We've come to the end of the AGM. Number 1, get these points, 3 points right. Number 1, no auditor has been appointed in office. Mkutano imeisha. No auditor has been appointed in office. Number 2, the retiring auditor is still qualified. Number 3, the retiring auditor has not indicated in writing on his unwillingness to be reappointed. Kwamba no auditor has been appointed at the end of the AGM. This auditor is still qualified, and he has not indicated in writing of his unwillingness to be reappointed in office. So again, there the law takes effect. He will be deemed to be automatically reappointed in office. So we had an auditor, and those 3 things have not happened. Those 3 things are very important. The other day they were tested and we were giving 6 marks. So 2 marks each. I take it again. Yes, let me write here for the sake of several. So automatic reappointment. So a retiring auditor is deemed to be reappointed in event A, no auditor has been appointed at the end of the AGM. B, the retiring auditor is still qualified. And C, he has not indicated in writing. He has not indicated in writing of his unwillingness to be reappointed. So hajaonyesha hataki. So the law takes effect. He is deemed to be reappointed then. If no auditor has been appointed at the end of the AGM, the retiring auditor is still qualified, has not indicated in writing of his unwillingness to be reappointed in office. That's appointment of an auditor. That's appointment of an auditor. Any question? A question. Annual general meeting. All along I've talked of AGM without mentioning it in full. Extraordinary general meeting. Yes, extraordinary general meeting. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So can one get the next and the one to spread the
assets, Yes, that's another exceptional circumstance where the registrar will come in. Although you see, then when thanks for that question. When an entity is being put under receivership, see that's receivership, or it's being liquidated. What's the difference between receivership and liquidation? An entity may be put under receivership or liquidation. Tofauti ni gani?
I think it is because of the process of liquidation that happened for an entity is put on a receivership, so that there's the entire process with that procedure.
Okay. Is receivership equals to liquidation?
Not really.
Not really.
That the circumstance under which an entity undergoes always placed under receivership. One of them is because the entity is
Being liquidified.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Receivership, thanks for that. Receivership is bankruptcy of a company. That it is unable to make good its obligations. Although we can discuss it in depth, one can be appointed as a receiver or as a receiver and a manager. Receiver is more or less liquidifying the entity. But receiver and a manager, you are appointed to put back the entity back to its feet. There are no intentions to close it down. You are required to manage it, use profits and lend to make good obligations. So we've seen Uchumi has been put under receivership how many times? Around thrice. And it did not mean closure. It meant we have a receiver manager who will manage it. Then from the profits generated from the business, they be used to make good those liabilities and obligations. But liquidation is closing down. To liquidate, to dispose of the assets, and use the proceeds to make good obligations. Receivership, we have no intentions to sell off. So one is put there to look into how they can put back the business on its foot. So I have mentioned that because I'm not seeing a scenario where an auditor would be appointed in such a case. When an entry...
It's a government entity and they want to expressly determine the management power. Like let's say Uchumi, what really happened on here, and give a report back to the government. That's what I was talking about. Oh yeah. As auditors may be involved in some investigations. We've seen PricewaterhouseCoopers being engaged by even county council to look into the assets, to look into the HR. That's very true. They can be engaged to perform some investigations. So which other apart from that one? Yeah. Ordinarily, auditing is about examination of books of accounts. But auditors may be engaged even to perform some internal audit. They can be engaged to perform risk assessment, can be engaged to perform forensic audit. Yes, tumesema internal audit. Even bookkeeping. Auditors will be engaged to perform bookkeeping. Yes, risk assessment, instituting internal control systems, forensic audit. Those are just a few examples. Yes. So they can be engaged to perform so many, leave alone the external auditors, even internal auditors. Internal auditors, though, internal auditors will be directly engaged by the management, and like the external auditors who report directly to the shareholders. Yes. So they perform any delegated task, any delegated function. And why is this done? When you want to achieve credibility. Because external auditors are known for credibility, enhancing credibility of anything that you engage them perform. Tutasoma your topic under outsourcing. What is outsourcing? Yes. Yes. Exactly. That you don't have your own department. You look for them when you need them. Most of the organizations outsource IT. Yes, you look for them when you need them. And so are some organizations. There are some organizations who do not have accountants. They outsource auditors to do the accounting job. They outsource auditors to input internal control systems, auditors to put in place accounting system, auditors to carry out forensic audit. And what? And the payroll, yes. Actually, there are guys who do not do their payroll. It's always outsourced to the auditors. It's or an auditing firm for that matter. Excellent. Your question was fully handled? Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, we can look at remuneration. That was capital A. Capital B, remuneration. Here we don't discuss so much. We say the appointing authority sets the remuneration. Although it becomes tricky when Custom gives you 6 marks to explain the remuneration. So what you do, yes, you mention, of course, we are saying the appointing authority. The appointing authority sets the audit fees. Sets the audit fees. I.e., now you discuss Roman number 1, unaweka shareholders, then you indicate that if the auditors have been appointed by the shareholders, it is the shareholders who will set the audit fee. Then you move to Roman number 2, you talk of directors. Then you say, why are we doing so 6 marks? You can't just mention and move to the next. Yes, unaweka directors. Then you indicate directors will appoint an auditor in case of a casual vacancy. As such, it is the directors who will set the audit fee. Just English words, expounding on it. Roman number 3, then you talk of the registrar. Of course, if it's the registrar who has appointed the auditor, then it's them to set the audit fee or even set the criteria of ascertaining the audit fee. So all these guys, what they do, they set the audit fee or they indicate the criteria of setting the audit fee. You know that you get the difference. Setting the audit fee is saying you'll be paid 250,000 shillings. Setting the criteria, they'll say it will depend on how much time they spend with us. If they spend this much, this time, this is much they'll be paid. If they spend this much, this is much they'll be paid. So they either set the fee or the criteria of setting the fee. What about automatically appointment? You continue getting like the previous audit fee, unless otherwise. Unless otherwise. So if previously you are being paid 100,000 shillings to carry out that audit, you continue getting the same, unless they decide to adjust, of course, upwards. Of course, upwards. Removal of an auditor. I need to wrap this so that I discuss removal. So if somebody was, is it legible? Yes, it's legible. It's legible. So if somebody was screenshotting, then you can screenshot, we discuss removal. But before I even write, what you need to know is shareholders are the only ones who can remove the auditor from office, no one else. Irrespective of whoever appointed the auditor in office, maybe you are writing that, yes? If you're writing, write and say, irrespective of whoever appointed the auditor in office, irrespective of whoever appointed the auditor in office, it's only the shareholders who can remove him. It's only the shareholders who can remove him. So we've started by saying irrespective of whoever appointed the auditor from office, it's only the shareholders who can remove him. It's only the shareholders who can remove him. Unajua na insist sababu ndio sasa tusiseme kwamba mwenye ana appoint auditor ndiye ana set fees. Mwenye ana appoint auditor ndiye anamtoa, pana. Mwenye anaweza toa to auditor ni shareholder, nobody else, nobody else. So procedure of auditors removal. So tushaweka your statement pale juu, it's only the shareholders who can remove the auditor from office. How is this done? How is this done? Roman number 1, yes, the auditor is furnished. The auditor is furnished with a notice. With a notice intending to remove him from office, furnished with a notice intending to remove him from office, and should not fall short of 28 days to the AGM. The auditor is furnished with a notice intending to remove him from office and should not fall short of 28 days to the AGM. So lazima tutume 28 days prior, minimum of 28 days prior to the next AGM. We can't just ambush them that we are replacing you. Yes. So that's number 1. Na yeye auditor akipata hii notice, anajiteteaga akitumia kitu tunaita representations. He says representations. Yes. The auditor may send representations defending himself. Yes. The representations should be reasonable. Reasonable in length, should be reasonable in length, and should not be defamatory. The auditor may send representations defending himself. The representations should be reasonable in length and should not be defamatory. Zisikuwe kubwa ama mingi ile itabidi zipelekwe na lori. Yes, representations zibebwe na lori vile ziko mingi. Then they should not be defamatory. Defamation was about spoiling the name. And spoiling the name was classified into two, permanent and non-permanent. Which was which? Defamation classified into two, permanent and temporary. Kulikuwa na libel na srada. Which was which? Libel is permanent. Srada is semi-permanent. Permanent meaning it's written. It's written. That's libel. Srada is word of mouth. Srada. Am I pronouncing the way you're able to get it right? Kulikuwa na libel na srada like that. Yes. So permanent and semi-permanent. Ajua ile written, you can always make reference. Inaonekana ama umeweka kwa mtandao, you can always make reference. That's so permanent. Mwaka ikiisha inakuambia memory. Yes. But semi-permanent, word of mouth. Word of mouth. All right. Now, when this happens, when we are sending notices to the shareholders calling the AGM, we make copies of these representations. Tukituma notices to the shareholders to the accompanying easy representations, so that our shareholders can prepare them in advance, themselves in advance to debate about the auditor's removal. So, notices calling the AGM, notices calling the AGM should be accompanied by auditors' representations. Auditors' representations. Notices calling the AGM should be accompanied by auditors' representations. I.e., both be sent to the shareholders. Shareholders ndio wakue wanaelewa kwamba auditor ameanza kujitetea na anasema aje. Ujue auditor is there as watchdog on behalf of shareholders' resources. So shareholders have got very much concern about their auditor, about their watchdog. Yes.
Now I'm wondering if it was one shareholder who should serve and then write some issue. I thought maybe they meet the AGM and then they discuss the continuity of that auditor and then
it's happening, the notice is happening prior to the AGM.
Or do they have a meeting private that will
No. Who does this are the agents. Because ni kama vile tunaingishagwa kwa mambo na rais wetu. Sio huyu mwenye yako rais as an office. Yes, wanatuweka kwa madeni na lazima tulipe. Sababu we've appointed them where we've voted them in there to act on our behalf. And so are the directors. Directors are the agents who act on behalf of the shareholders. So when we say that the company will send, the company will receive, it's the directors who are doing this on behalf of the shareholders. So the shareholders will just come to ratify if they agree with it. They'll just come to ratify when they agree with it. If you remember the first structure we did day one, we indicated that the directors, the management, internal auditors, and the accountants are agents acting on behalf of the shareholders. Na si tunajua when agent acts, it binds the principal. It binds the principal, right? Although we have issues of agents overstepping their mandate at some point, then ukasoma kitu inaitwa estopel. What estopel what? Estopel, the rule in estopel. Rule in estopel huwa inasema kwamba the principal will be stopped to deny that the agent acted on their behalf if it clearly looked like the agent acts on behalf of the principal unconditionally. By that we mean, kuna agent anaweza kuwa anafanyaga biashara on behalf of the principal. Na umetransact na yeye. Na transactions zimekuwa sawa all through. Yes, umeenda umenunua farm produce kwa hiyo agent on behalf of the principal. It went so well. Other time, you rented a room, you rented a house through the agent. It was very fine. Hata siku ingine umekuta akiuza gari na unanunua kutoka kwa agent. All along it has been happening. Then ushtukia that vehicle ought not have been sold by the agent. There was no authority for them to transact. So you can take the issue to the court for the principal to be stopped from indicating that the agent never acted on their behalf. Yes, estopel, the rule in estopel. Yes, hiyo nimekumbuka vitu za kitambo sana. Zilikuwa kwa company law ama law or something. Is it law or company law? Company law, eh? Yes, company law. All right. Now, the shareholders have received the notices calling the AGM, and they've been accompanied by the representations from the auditor. Roman number 4, what happens? During the AGM, sasa mkutano imefanyika. During the AGM, the auditor's removal is discussed. The auditor's removal is discussed, after which a voting takes place. A voting takes place, and an auditor may be removed by a simple majority. I read it through. During the AGM, the auditor's removal is discussed, after which a voting takes place, and an auditor may be removed by a simple majority. Voting takes place, and an auditor may be removed by a simple majority, 50% plus 1. Kama tu kura zetu hapa. 50% plus 1, enough to remove the auditor. So during the AGM, the auditor's removal is discussed, after which a voting takes place, and an auditor may be removed by a simple majority. Removed by a simple majority, or through a simple majority, for that matter. Reasons why an auditor may be removed, although it can extend to replaced. And most likely, No, some of the reasons could be the reasons why an auditor may resign. Sini issues kama disagreement. A disagreement may ensue such that you can't continue auditing. Kuna disagreements inafanyikaga watu unakuta hata waongeleshani. They cannot see eye to eye. Sasa, which audit is that? Yes. So disagreement. Yes. Number 2. Incapacitation. Number 3. Number 3. If the audit fees are perceived to be very high, ukiona ni kama unachajiwa mingi sana unamuondoa. Yes. Although hiyo discuss mambo yake on Saturday, stories are lowballing and undercutting other auditing firms. We'll be discussing it on Saturday, God willing. Number 4, if the client does not get value for money. If the client does not get value for money. Saa zingine ushaikosa kupata value for money. Have you ever bought something and you feel this is not what we are looking for? Yes. Our sisters, ushaishuka ukasikia kuibomoa ni vile tu ni chungu. Unaona uivumilie wiki ngapi ubomoe? Lakini unaona hujapata vile ulikuwa unataka. Sasa ni ngumu urudi pale. Yes. Sisi kwenye roho hainaga maneno mingi. Bora tu yote imetoka. Yes. Unless you are doing style. Yes, ndio unaweza ukasikia kwamba you didn't get value for money. So if a client feels that they never got value for money, they can go ahead to replace the auditor. Ama saa zingine client ana grow. Inakuwa wewe auditor huwezi mu-audit tena. Unajua unaweza pewa kazi kama auditor, kampuni kitoshana tu hivi. You're okay, sababu uko na time, uko na human resource and such. Then they grow, they have branches all over. You are not able to audit them. You are likely to be repressed. Yes. Yes. Yes.
That's assenting the audit. So how come again they're perceiving that it's too high? If the auditor is coming with a mindset doing what they are meant to be doing.
What happens is in a free market now, what may happen is you may find other auditors who are charging far below. For instance, if we started an auditing firm today, we are likely to charge a bit low. Or maybe you've ever started with a client somewhere, and as they grow in size, they start charging more. What I mean by that, like a small school, for instance, private school may start today. May even say, we are offering transport for free, we are offering lunch for free. Then as they grow, that's to entice clients to come over. When clients come, they want now to increase their charging what they used to give for free. They even want to increase the fees. You may perceive now this is too high. Let's look for another who is charging a bit low, who is charging a bit low. All right, the scope of audit increases due to clients growth. Hata wewe mwenye hii hata inaweza kuwa reason ya kuresign. Client may grow, you are overwhelmed. You don't have the human resource to take care of this, time resource, yes, and so on. You are likely to resign, yes, ikikuwa mingi sana. Number 6, another reason that we may remove or replace an auditor. There are some companies which have got a policy of replacing an auditor every other time. Kuna companies in a replacing auditor after every 3 years, after every 2 years. Why do they do so? Familiarity. Yeah, familiarity aspect. They want to ensure the auditor is independent, because the more the auditor interacts with the client staff and the client themselves, then they become so used to each other. That long association, L-O-N-G, long interaction is likely to compromise their independence. So they bring others who are hired, who will be independent. Certainly hivyo I give you an example. Pia hapo kwa class ni hivyo. Unakuta saizi bado hatujaanza kuwa na story mingi, hatujajuana sana. Kishajuana sana story tunakuwa na mingi, unakuwa una open up, yes, and such independence is likely to be compromised. Excellent. Other reasons of repressing or removal is even death of an auditor. Death of an auditor. Oh, atsijaweka hiyo ya rotation, eh? Auditor's rotation. Can always expound. There are some companies with a policy of replacing an auditor every other, like e.g. 3 years. Yes, auditor's rotation. Yes, hiyo naelezea kwamba clients may have a policy of replacing auditors after a certain period. After a certain period, or periodically. Yes, to replacing auditors periodically or after a certain period, e.g. 2 years. Hii haijarishagi hata uko mzuri aje. Time ikifika ya kureplace after 3 years, naenda tu because that's it. Sini kama hii yetu ya presidential, it's 2 terms. You can't do more than 2 terms. Even the gubernatorial, 2 terms, no matter how good you are. No matter how good you are. Who is this very good governor you felt that you wish there was no term limit? Ama afadhali hivyo ni 2 limits at least walienda. What do you think? Kuna wenye ulikuwa nasikia, I wish this term was extended. Yes? Sana sana hakuna, tunakuwa tumechoka kabisa. Yes? Yes? Excellent. Other reasons, eh? Do you have other reasons? Which one?
Some cases, management may change. Say for example, we have an entity that we are and then
An entity that is?
which is a holding company. Another one. So we have changes shifted that the holding company level. They have replaced the auditors and then they want to cascade that also.
Oh yeah, that also, especially coming from the holding company. Yes, when you buy and when you have controlling interest comes in when you've acquired more than 50%. Yes, when you have controlling interest, there may be some terms that requires you use the very same auditors that the holding company uses, or you change the auditors. We vet afresh. You vet afresh the auditing firms. All right, that could happen. That could happen. Yes, policies set in a group structure. In a group structure, e.g. holding and subsidiary companies. And there could be so many other reasons. There could be so many other reasons why we are replacing the auditor, or why we are removing the auditor. Now, tumesema some of these reasons could lead to resignation, like disagreement could lead to resignation. Incapacitation, if you know yourself, could lead to resignation. Hii haiwezi. Hii pia tumesema, when the client grows so much you feel you are not able to. Auditor's rotation, not really. Yes, so these are some of the reasons why one may resign. Other times, you just want to pursue your personal interests. Hakuna ile sababu serious, you just want to pursue your personal interests, and you just resign, Excellent. That was capital who? Capital C, removal of an auditor from office. Removal of an auditor from office. We look at capital D, resignation of an auditor. In Kenya, we have some guys who used to say, I would rather die than resign. Yes. Who is this? Mkutilie huyu mtu. Yes? Kaguta. In Kenya. Huyo pia anasemaga hivyo, eh? You know Museveni. Oh, those guys. Those guys. Bana. There's somebody who used to say they will never resign, they will rather die. Kemunya, yes, Kemunya. Kemunya is known to make that statement in parliament. I would rather die than resign. But if the pressure was too much, yes, he had to. He had to. The pressure was so much. Then he was Minister for Finance. Was it finance or finance? Yes, Minister for Finance. All right, capital D, resignation. So P&I auditor akitaka kuresign apeana notice ya 28 days. The auditor to give a 28 days notice. Apeana 28 days notice. So sini kama 1 month notice. We know how things happen in employment. Ile contract umesign kwenu ni 1 month notice ama ni 3 months? 2 months, eh? 2 months. 2 months. So ukienda job ulizo how soon are you available? What do you usually say? Yes, I know, because ukisema 2 months, you are likely to lose that. Yes. Well, there's another student of mine, alienda mahali akasema 2 months. Na aligojewa. Paka nikasema, kuna job zingine serious. Aligojewa for 2 months. Although sasa after kwenda pale ndio aliona hata afadhali angeenda kitambo. It's a very good company. It's a very good company. She is doing rounds in Ethiopia, in Tanzania, in Uganda. Yes. Then waliajiriwa wakiwa wawili at the same time. Yeye na another guy. Huyu guy akaregea kazini. After 2 months akafutwa. So huyu akapewa kazi yake na ya huyu mshahara kashoot. Kukaa kidogo ni manager. Yes. Yes. Which company is that? It's a near projects. Yes. Luckily enough, I think PSS tukifanya hizi courses tunaangalia. She's a CPAK, then become finance. She mastered in project management. So she's able to manage because they are doing projects. They are given projects by Safaricom to do the masts. So you see, Safaricom is now in Ethiopia. They are doing most of the masts there. Yes. So, yeah. Yes. So nilijua hiyo kuna siku nyingine niambia mwalimu get some dollars here. Yes. Siku si nilikuwa nasikia vizuri. Yes. I didn't want to change them to Kenyan currency, to retain them for a while. Yes, to feel good. So you see what other students are doing. Napeana your example with the reason. Yes. So you see what other students are doing. Excellent. Anyway, we always pray that good things happen to all of us. So the auditor gives a 28 days notice. After this, he deposits. He deposits. Why do we use he? Does the girl child feel that it's like we are so much into it? Ni sababu it takes care of all of us, Si ni kweli? Sema hii sina to weka pale. He deposits a statement of circumstances. Deposits a statement of circumstances. Very important. Yes, hii hata karibu tuandike in capital letters, because if an auditor resigns and fails to deposit a statement of circumstances, it's a criminal offense. It's not civil. It's a criminal offense. Failure to deposit statement of circumstances when you resign or you cease to hold office, it's a criminal offense. So he must deposit a statement of circumstances indicating reasons for his resignation. Why did he resign? Unajua shareholders wanataka kujua sana sababu yeye ni watchdog wao. And they are resigning. You'd wish to know why they are resigning. So even if there's no reason for resigning, they need to draft one and indicate as such. There are no pertinent issues. There are no ethical issues behind their resignation. They need to do so. They need to deposit a statement of circumstances. Roman number 3. An EGM is convened to discuss the auditor's removal. EGM is convened to discuss the auditor's removal. And last number 4, another auditor is appointed in office. Because resignation hamwezi mforce kukaa mahali tunaweza pata outcome tofauti ni removal, because votes may be in favor, or if it's 50+1 removing him, ibidi atoke. Yes, but resignation, they are resigning, they are leaving, so hakuna ile kwamba they are remaining. You get this, eh? Yes, removal, chances are, yes, if the removal is wrongful, if the shareholders feel that the removal is wrongful, they're likely to retain them. They're likely to retain them because, again, directors may be malicious. Directors may be malicious. Uliona vile PLO alitolewa kwa EACC. PLO stay in EACC, did he even do 6 months? Alivurushwa mbio na MP sababu waliona huyu jamaa ako serious. Huyu jamaa hawezi kubali corruption iendelee. Wakamtoa. And you know the years is numbers. Kwa bunge, wakamvurusha. Anataka mtu ana relax pale. Yes, PLO was categorical in his watch. And that ought to have been a thing of the past. Exit. Resignation is done. Qualifications. Capital E. Qualifications of an auditor. Of course, huwezi kuwa you are qualified if you've not been issued with a practicing certificate. Yes. If not been issued with a practicing certificate, then you cannot purport to practice audit. You can't purport to practice audit. Yes. So to practice, one must have been issued with a practicing certificate as per section 21 of Accountants Act. To practice, one must have been issued with a practicing certificate as per section 21 of Accountants Act, as per section 21 of Accountants Act, as per section 21 of Accountants Act. It requires that one must be, Roman number 1, a CPA K finalist or graduate. Siku hizi Kasnebu wameregea. Kitambo, you know what they used to do? Ulikuwa najisikia vizuri sana. Walikuwa wanatengeneza newslines. Zilikuwa zinaitwa newslines or newsletters. Zimetengenezwa vizuri sana. Have you ever seen these newsletters? The Kasneb. Walikuwa wanatengeneza newsletters ama newslines every 3 months. So walikuwa naita jina mzuri sana title, wanabadilisha kulingana na new trends. Then pale ndani wana solve maswali zenye zilifanywa ile sitting nyingine and they were complicated. Wana solve hapo, wanaonyesha how you ought to have answered. Hapo wana highlight the most poorly performed questions per subject wana solve. Alafu sisi walimu tulikuwa tunatuma topics pale Kasneb. unatuma topic yako, una discuss something, kama ni swali unatuma na unapeana solution. Wakichagua walikuwa wanatupaka 5k per question. Juu tunatuma wengi, si lazima yako ichukuliwe. So wanachukua yako, wanaitengeneza, wanaweka pictorial, graphs zenye huko umeweka, na zenye walikuwa wanaweka newsline, ulikuwa unajua lazima hivi karibuni testiwe. So wanafunzi walikuwa wanaziangalia sana hizo newslines. Sasa the most interesting part, back of this newsline, ilikuwa anatuwekea Achievers Gallery. Achievers Gallery. Hiyo last sitting ni akina nani walimaliza CPK, mazee ukiona jina yako hapo. So you know how it feels, how you struggle to pass these papers, eh? Unasikia kama hiyo newsline utapeleka mashamba, wazazi kwanza waone, watu wenye wanafikiria hujasoma waone, because your name being put there, NSC stroke, then your name, and it's Achievers Gallery. I think they should return to that. It motivates. You know that, motivation is classified into, we have intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So this is intrinsic motivation, that intrinsic satisfaction. Yes. Kama ile tunasikiaga mwanafunzi akitumia message after results, mwalimu nilipita. Kwanza, nowadays they are screenshotting. You can see they passed. It feels. Yes. Must be a CPA finalist, stroke graduate. Roman number 2 must be registered with a recognized accounting examination body, e.g. CASNEB, ACCA, etc. Nisome tena sababu ya vile haisomeki saa zingine. Must be registered with a recognized accounting examination body, e.g. CASNEB, ACCA, etc. Must be registered with a recognized. Nataka kufuta hii side, just in case somebody was screenshotting the online students. Somebody was screenshotting. All right. So 1 BCPK graduates, finalists. Next, we've said be registered with the recognized accounting examination body. Roman number 3, be registered with a recognized professional body. Recognized professional body, e.g. ISPAC. And Roman number 4, possess at least 3 years post-graduate experience. So number 1, a CPAK finalist. 2, registered with the recognized accounting examination body, e.g. CASNEB. 3, be registered with the recognized professional body, e.g. ISPAC. 4, possess at least 3 years post-graduate experience. Postgraduate inamaanisha hata kama saizi unafanya kwa auditing firm, hii haitahesabiwa. It's after you attained CPAK, now you've worked for 3 years in an auditing firm. Not masters. After attaining your CPAK, you've worked in an auditing environment for not less than 3 years. But of course, I mentioned about 3 levels of membership in CASNEB, in ISPAC. Immediately after you attain CPAK, you can register as an associate member. Hata upewe ISPAC number, membership number, associate member for 2 years. Miaka 2 ikiisha, hata kama huko umeregister kama associate, hawezi kubali you register associate. Miaka 2 ikiisha, you register for full member. Sasa you are full member. Now, to be a practicing member, these are the requirements. So you can be a full member, but not practicing. For practicing, these are the requirements. Then you're given practicing certificate. You are given practicing certificate. Kitambo walikuwa anasema kwamba everybody who has registered with that experience can be any title. Yes, but in auditing environment. In auditing environment. In auditing environment. Yes, kama hii yangu ya teaching haiwezi nipea hiyo practicing. But you know the nature of Kenyans, eh? So unaenda mahali kwa auditing firm, as long as lazima ikuwe after 3 years, sababu si wataona kasi ulimaliza lini. So after 3 years, getting that recommendation is easy. Yes. Ndio upate practicing certificate. It has to be in an auditing environment, environment. Excellent. But there are some persons who will still be disqualified despite possessing these qualifications. So these qualifications. Number one, body corporates. Body corporates are disqualified to audit. Kampuni haziwezi audit. Na hata ukichunguza vizuri, hakuna auditing firm yenye ni kampuni. Registered at the Companies Act. Hakuna. They are firms. Firms zenye ni partnerships or sole traders. Sole proprietorship. Hakuna kampuni auditing firm. For what reasons? Not in a position. Not in a position to form an opinion. Forming of opinion is left to me and you. Because it's us who are able to say, in my opinion or in our opinion, kampuni itaongea sangapi. Haiwezekani. Plus, they are disqualified because they have limited liability. We know companies must end with the LTD, limited. They have limited liabilities. So kuwafikia ni ngumu. Although kwa company law unasoma lifting of veil of incorporation. Ati kwamba you can reach to the directors, but it complicates everything. So companies cannot audit. Law number 2 and number 3 can be discussed together. Is it 2, 3, or 4? Yes, this is ingine karibu zifanane. A servant or an employee of the client. Uwezi saa utajioditaji. Ukifanya mtihani uende Kasnev kumark. Si utajua una score. Yes. The score mingi sana. The score mingi sana. Yes. But you are aware that KCE gets lots of number ones the whole of East Africa. Are we aware of that? Yes. Number 1. Unakuta number 1 kwa auditing ni wa hii college. Number 1 kwa FM ni wa hii college. We have those number ones. We get them from Kasnev. Si uko kwa group sahi utaona tukishafanya mtihani. Yes, they rank students the highest. So unakuta number 1 in FM ni hapa, number 1 in FR ni hapa, number 1 in audit ni hapa, number 1 aggregate hapa. Yes. It feels. Internal auditor ni tofauti. We are discussing external. Internal auditor itakuwa ka topic kivyake. Any other time we talk of an auditor being appointed, removed, resignation is the external audit.
Yeah.
Accountant, an auditor is an accountant. An auditor is a qualified accountant. So it's right to say we are discussing legal framework of an auditor because an auditor is a qualified accountant. Or we can still call it legal and professional framework of an accountant.
So I'm saying for that, this entire framework is for
external auditor. Good question. All right. Number next, a person who is highly indebted. A person who is highly indebted to the company. Ati munapeana loan na kampuni. Actually, hata audit fee ikikaa sana bila kulipwa inakuwa deni. Sasa hiyo inaweza haribu uhusiano wako wewe na client. It's likely to compromise your independence. Yes. a person who has given or obtained guarantee to stroke from the company. Si ni the same too na loan, sababu guarantee ni saile ukichukua loan ni kuwe guarantor wako. In case of default, I become the principal debtor. I become the principal debtor. So hiyo pia inaharibu independence ya auditor. It's likely to compromise the auditor's independence. So a servant, a person who is highly indebted, a person who has given or obtained guarantee to or from the company is disqualified. Hii ingine nayo ni group structure. Group structure. Ile tulikuwa tumeambiwa hapa na rafiki kwamba you have parent or holding company, subsidiary, subsidiary, we may have associates, we may have joint ventures and such. This is company A investing in company B, company B investing in company C and such. So we say if an auditor is disqualified to audit a component in a group structure, then he is automatically disqualified to audit any other component. Disqualified in one, you are disqualified to audit any other. Yes. So number 5 tunasema in case an auditor is disqualified to audit a component in a group, then he is automatically disqualified to audit any other component. In case an auditor is disqualified to audit a component in a group, then he is automatically disqualified to audit any other component in the group. Some repetition. Auditor is disqualified to audit a component in a group, then he is automatically disqualified to audit any other component in the group. Disqualified to audit one, automatically disqualified to audit any other. Automatically disqualified to audit any other. Is Technopova Neo. Unakuona mahali umetulia ukisikiza auditing. Possible you can switch off the camera. It's possible. Yes. Good. Point number 3, kuna mtu amesema haoni kwa online, a person who is highly indebted to the company. Highly indebted. Is it indebted or indebted? Whichever. Indebted to the company. Indebted to the company. All right. Rights of an auditor. Rights of an auditor. Capital who? Capital F. Rights of an auditor. Nataka kufuta hapa katikati sababu zita overflow pale. So somebody may screenshot there. Somebody may screenshot. Rights of an auditor hazina maneno mingi. Number 1, right to unrestricted access to the books of accounts, records, and vouchers. Check that. Right to unrestricted access to the books of accounts, records, and vouchers. Anaweza zipata saa ile anataka wakati anazihitaji. Yes, unrestricted access to the books of accounts, records, and vouchers. Unrestricted access to the books of accounts, records, a person who is, yes. Right to unrestricted access to the books of accounts, records, and vouchers. Roman number 2, right to receive notices to attend the AGM. Right to receive notices to attend the AGM. Hata kama sio stories za auditors inadiskasiwa hiyo mkutano, lazima apewe notice. Afadhali akosa kwenda. But he has got a right to receive notices to attend the AGM. Right to receive notices to attend the AGM. Roman number 3, still on AGM, right to attend. Right to attend the AGM. So you discuss that separately. So to right to receive notices to attend the AGM. Number 3, right to attend the AGM is a right. Number 4, still on AGM matters. Right to speak. Right to speak at the AGM through the chair. Kuongea AGM sio hivi. Hata bunge tunajuaga. Kuna mtu akienda pale hawezi ongea. Kama Attorney General alikuwa anaenda kitambo, lakini haongei. Alikuwa anaitwa ex officio. Ex officio. Cannot even vote. So pia hapa akona right ya kuongea kwa AGM, but through the chair. Ni kama tu vile parliament is, Mr. Chair, Honorable Chair, Speaker, Honorable Speaker. Yes, they speak through the speaker. Yes. Number 6, right to remuneration. Right to remuneration. Siapewe audit fee. Right to remuneration. Hawezi fanya kazi ya bure. Roman number 6, right of lien. Lien ni kitu gani? Si ni kushika vitabu hadi alipwe. Ni kama saa ile umepeleka simu itengenezwe, unaambiwa wewe leta lipa uchukue simu. That's lien. It has been withheld until you pay. Yes. Number 7, right to indemnity. Right to indemnity. Right to indemnity. Indemnity is an insurance principle which indicates to be restored back to the position you were before loss. So if you suffered loss as a result of engagement, then the client should be able to compensate you the loss you've suffered as a result of the engagement. Roman number 8. Roman number 8. Right to visit. Visit branches. Ukiajiriwa na kampuni sasa unaweza tembea ile branch unajisikia kwenda. And the auditor. Enda kwa branches zote, you get all the information you wish to get. So right to visit branches. Number 9, right to legal and technical. Right to legal and technical advice. Kiumana, if you are auditing a very complicated client, maybe an audit client, vitu technical ni kama gani? Kama una audit company hii na explore mafuta Turkana. Na wamesema ati crossing stock yenye iko ndani chini ya mchanga, crossing stock ni 1.7 billion worth of oil, of crude oil. Na utajuaje sasa wewe? You have to source from a technical person. Who is this person that you engage? This is a past paper question. Tutasoma ISA 620. ISA 620 discusses experts evidence. Unaulizagwa ni experts wa gani auditor anaweza engage. Kama huyu anaitwa geologist. Unaweza engage hata lawyer. Unaweza engage surveyor, quantity surveyor. Unaweza engage nani mwingine? Medical personnel. Hata kuna swali kama hiyo E-level. Kuna swali kama hiyo E-level ilikuwa inasema kuna jamaa alienda hoteli akanunua chakula pale, baadaye complain of food poisoning, discuss the audit procedures. 8 marks, I'll show you that question. Yes, iko kwa past paper. Audit procedures. Na unaona hata ni mambo haikai ya auditing na ni 8 marks. So medical practitioners, artists, IT experts, kuna swali zinaulizaga hivyo. Right to seek legal and technical advice, very important. Then number 10, rights during removal. Hii tunaidiscussing hivi, rights during removal. Auditor akona rights during removal. Hawezi tu tolewa hivyo hivyo. Akona some rights, Yes, nakaa nikisoma who caters for the fees or cost of these experts. Ni auditor. Auditor ni yeye analipa hawa experts, And that's why tukienda hiyo topic nyingine discuss steps in an audit. Before you even plan, you scan the client. ISA 310. ISA 310 is on screening of the client, background research. Umuelewe. Ndio ukiona kuna technicality, una plan in advance. You need this expert at this point and you need them to carry out this work. So ukiset audit fee, ushaweka hadi expert ndani. So it's the auditor who pays the expert. It's the auditor who pays. It's a good question. Sorry, now but it's a very good question that you've asked. So rights during removal, number 1, to share discuss na wewe. Yes, to receive notices intending to remove him from office. Hiyo tulikuwa tusha discuss nawe. Number 2, to send representations defending his possession. That's another right. Tumeiona nawe pia. And to receive notices intending to remove him from office, to send representations defending his possession. Number 3, to lead the representations during the AGM. Juu hizi representations inaweza fikia shareholders late, not in good time. So anaweza wasoma aki-explain. So I take it again. Rights during removal. Right to receive notices intending to remove him from office. Right to send representations defending his possession. Right to lead the representations during the AGM. Number 4, to defend himself. Yes, wengine wanasema himself. Na to seek legal redress if he feels his removal is wrongful. Yes, to receive notices intending to remove him from office, to send representations defending his possession, to lead the representations during the AGM, to defend himself, and to seek legal redress if he feels that his removal is... Hii ni kusema aende kotini. Anaweza enda kotini. Akisikia sasa ni kama anatolewa na sio kisawasawa, can always seek legal redress. So wewe kwa mtihani usome vizuri swali. Ushike kama examiner anauliza rights of an auditor or rights of an auditor during removal. You write between the lines, because you can be asked to highlight rights of an auditor or rights of an auditor during removal. Rights of an auditor during removal. Ni hizi. Duties. Nataka kufuta hapa, just in case somebody is writing or screenshotting. Duties of an auditor. Take it again. Yes. Through the chair. Yes. Si unaona hata wabunge hawasawiki, Mr. Speaker wanaiweka huko katikati mpaka inakuwa ni kama ndio inaongelelewa. Yes. It has to be through the chair, because in a meeting we know if you ask the roles of a chair in a meeting, see is a moderator. Is a moderator, yeye ndiye anapeana time, yeye ndiye anapeana agenda. So it has to be through the chair. Is a man in charge. Is the man in charge of that meeting. It's a good question. G, duties. Duty moja muhimu sana, number 1, to write a report. Yes, yes. To write auditor's report containing his opinion. Hiyo ni duty. Kuna watu walikuwa wanadiscuss kama right. How can it be a right? It's a duty. Duty to write a report. Duty to write an auditor's report containing his opinion. Containing his opinion. Then number 2 ni point to share discuss mahali. Other legal matters. Can you recall other legal matters in auditor's report? It was paragraph number 7. I gave you 7 points that are captured therein. Naweza sahau sababu si ni weekend tu tulisoma. Sunday ukaenda church, ukakuja class. Monday catch up job. Tuesday ndio hiyo. Time is rushing. Yes, but you have those points and they're very important to get them right. To expressly record the other legal matters. E.g., I can highlight 2 ndio ukumbuke. Number 1, indicate whether he received all the information and explanation deemed necessary for the purpose of audit. Indicate whether he received all the informations and explanations necessary for the purpose of audit. Sio tuliandika mahali. Yes, hiyo sasa iko hapa kwa these other legal matters. B, to report whether the financial statements portray a true and fair view. A true and fair view. Si tuliziandika, umeshaanza kuziona mahali ziko? Ebu ziangalie mahali ziko. So hizo zingine hatutashinda tukikopi paste. Lakini ujue kuna C, D, E and F. E and F ziko mahali tuliandika. Tunaenda hivi. Other legal matters. Other legal matters. Then tuliziandika sawa.
The last one.
Yes. Issued. Hatukuziandika hapa. Pengine tuliziandika. Acha nione nikikumbuka.
Kuna yenye nilinuka hapa katikati.
All right. Tutaziangalia. Check whether you can trace them somewhere. If you can't trace them somewhere, I can always. Hata kwa hiyo soft copy nilituma. Sana ziko hapo. Yes. Roman number 3. Another duty to avail working papers. To avail working papers. To assist in statutory investigations. Hii point tukumbuke sababu nitakuuliza Saturday. Sasa hii nayo nitakuwa sure tumeiandika. Sababu tutasoma confidentiality. Confidentiality, auditor hafai ku discuss client's information, but this is an exception to confidentiality, that he can avail client's working papers to assist in statutory investigations. Kisheria anaweza saidia. It's a duty. Number 4, to call for information relating to collaterals used to secure loans. Hizi ni securities, collateral. Call for information relating to collaterals used to secure loans. Anataka aone aje hizi security zimesecure loan yote vizuri. Sababu kama hazija secure loan vizuri, sasa ujue hata kampuni iko kwa risk that the assets may not cover all the liabilities. Because I want to make sure that the liquidity position, the going concern aspect of the client is not threatened because of excess loans, loans, or maybe even some loans which cannot be made good by realizing all the assets. And lastly, the most common one, to certify financial statements. Certify financial statements, including a prospectus. Mwenye ana certify, of course, ni mwenye qualified. Kucertify, kuweka muhuri na kuweka sahihi, kuweka signature, to certify financial statements. What's a prospectus? Yes, document which is used as an invitation to treat to the general public to subscribe to the shares of an entity, to subscribe to the shares those are the duties of an auditor. Those are the duties of an auditor. Situfanya tuka introduction kai. Fanya tuka introduction. Then on Saturday tutamalizia. Tukimaliziaga hii. We believe kwamba Mungu atatuwezesha hayo mambo. Auditors liabilities. Roma number 1, criminal liability. Roma number 2, civil liability under the law of contract. Then Roma number 3, civil liability under the law of tort. Auditors liabilities, criminal liability number 2, civil liability under the law of contract. Number 3, civil liability under the law of tort. Hii huwa inatupeleka kwa kutuuliza aje persons to whom the auditor is responsible. Yes, persons to whom the auditor is responsible. Haijai ulizwa hii level, lakini imeulizwa section 6. Kwa criminal liability, auditor is responsible to state. Civil under the law of contract, responsible to the client. Civil under the law of tort, to third parties. I take it again. In criminal liability, auditor is responsible to the state. Other parties to a criminal offense are state and accused, or the prosecution and accused. Now, prosecution is the government, DPP. Yes, so ni state. Number 2, ameingia kwa contract na client, who are the shareholders. So in case of breach, he is responsible to the client, who are the shareholders. Tort ni third party liabilities. Remember when we were discussing evolution of audit, we said in early audit, auditors were only answerable to the owners. In contemporary audit, they have extended liabilities, even to third parties. Sijari nitakupea cases. Tutasoma kesi ya Altramire versus Niven Touch of 1932. Tutasoma kesi ya Donoghue versus Stevenson 1932. Tutasoma kesi ya Hard Rebellion versus Hera Partners of 1963. Zitakusaidia vizuri kuelewa to what extent is auditor, or to what extent does the auditor owe duty of care to third parties. Duty of care to third parties. Let's introduce criminal liability. Criminal liability ni serious. Sababu si auditor atafungwa. Hata ni mzuri tuisome. Si tushaona reason moja auditor atafungwa. Ni sababu gani? Criminal liability, instances that criminal liability would arise. Kuna moja ni overemphasize. Tumesema ni wakati upi auditor atakuwa criminally charged. Akikosa kudeposit statement of, si tuiandike hata ikuwe ya kwanza. Tutaandika aje? What are the remedies? Yes, andika hapa. Remedies. Criminal offense includes fine, imprisonment, or both. Alafu ndio tuweke circumstances. Circumstances that may lead to a professional accountant being criminally charged. That tungesema circumstances leading to criminal liability. Circumstances leading to criminal liability, circumstances leading to criminal liability, circumstances leading to criminal liability, circumstances leading to criminal liability. Kuna hii moja tunaielewa sawa sawa. If the auditor resigns or ceases to hold office and fails to deposit statement of circumstances. Auditor resigns or ceases to hold office and fails to deposit statement of circumstances. Auditor resigns or ceases to hold office and fails to deposit statement of circumstances. Fails to deposit statement of circumstances. Hiyo tumeshaweka sawa sawa. Is privy, or else let me see how we put this. Yes, is privy to allegations of destruction or mutilation of evidence. Privy to allegations of destruction or mutilation of evidence. To mutilate evidence is to destroy beyond recognition. Yes. Kama yule rafiki wako wa high school vile alikuwa anashikwa na Mwakenya, alikuwa anafanya aje? Mimi nilikuwa na best aje alikuwa na meza. Wacha case baadaye, hakuna evidence, hiyo ni mutilation, to destroy beyond recognition. So if an auditor is privy to such, or the allegations that he destroyed evidence, then that's criminal offense. Number three rather, is aware of a material misstatement and fails to disclose. Aware of a material misstatement and fails to disclose. Anajua hapa kuna ufisadi, kuna mambo haijafanyika sawa sawa na amenyamaza tu, and is aware. Of course kuna vitu zingine zitakuwa ngumu sana kuprove kotini kwamba alikuwa anajua na kusema hakuwa anajua. Yes, let me read. Is aware of a material misstatement and fails to disclose. And fails to disclose. Ni point gani haieleweki vizuri? I can read it again. All right. Roman number four, privy to inserting a misleading statement in the records or his report. Privy to inserting a misleading statement in the report or the records. Privy to inserting a misleading statement in the records or his report. A misleading statement, pal, in the report or in the records. Yes, misleading statement. Maybe to exaggerate, kuonyeshana kwamba like everything is okay. Roman number 5, allowing his name to be used by unqualified persons. Allowing his name to be used by unqualified persons. Allowing his name to be used by unqualified persons. Unakutaga ati unaambia mwingine wewe fungua tu auditing firm nitakupea makaratasi. Ndio sasa ati hata kuja search kunaonekana mwenye ako pale qualified. That's a criminal offense. It's a criminal offense. Kama number 6 forgery. Forgery of signatures and documents. Basically certificates. Forgery of course CO2 hapa everywhere. It's a criminal offense. Forgery is a criminal offense. Number 7 if he carries on a business with intention, carries on a business, if he carries on a business with intention to defraud creditors, carries on a business with intention to defraud creditors. Na creditors wanakuwa protected sana, sababu si hata ndio inafanya tuangalie security collaterals. Na ndio bado huwa inasema kwamba you cannot use the existing capital even to redeem securities. Minimization of capital, no, because it's the only security for creditors. That's why you find in event of redemption, not unless you use CRRF, capital redemption reserve fund, maybe you can do a fresh issue. So that use the proceeds to redeem, but the existing capital, it's protected. The only security for creditors. Roman number 8. Roman number 8 ni hii story ya kufake maneno ya purporting to be qualified, comma, knowing himself. Purporting to be qualified, knowing himself to be disqualified. To be disqualified. Purporting to be qualified, knowing himself to be disqualified. Purporting to be qualified, knowing himself to be disqualified. Anajua yeye sio qualified, na bado anajifanya kwamba yeye ni qualified. Anajifanya yeye bado ni qualified. All right, the last point and very important also, number 9, a component auditor failing to avail evidence to the group auditor. Component auditor failing to avail evidence to the group auditor. Nilikuwa nishakuchorea ka structure fulani hivi: parent, subsidiary, subsidiary. These are separate legal entities in the eyes of law. Sasa kwa group accounts pia kuna group audit. We want to audit the entire group. So if you have a GEP, group engagement partner, or group auditor, these component auditors are supposed to give evidence to this group engagement partner to facilitate group reporting. So if one declines, it's a criminal offense. It's a criminal offense. It's a criminal offense. It's a criminal offense. Skip a line and have Lex Murad case 1991. Hii haina maneno mingi. Lex Murad case of 1981. Skip a line and have Lex Murad case of 1981. The auditor was accused of aiding in the issuance of a misleading report with the intent not only to deceive, the shareholders, but even other stakeholders. Even too. The auditor was accused of aiding in the issuance of a misleading report with intent not only to deceive the shareholders, but also other stakeholders. The auditor was accused of aiding in the issuance of a misleading report with the intent not only to deceive the shareholders, but also other stakeholders. Today is on the 20th.
Yeah.
Accused of aiding in the issuance of a misleading report with intent not only to deceive the shareholders, but also other stakeholders. Yes, please. Concerning evolution of audit.
That is when we discuss the early audit
And contemporary. Yes. Yeah. Excellent. It's a common question. Eh? When you check through the past papers, you'll find it. You'll find it.
You check on the difference.
You check on the differences. Early audit was on errors, flaws, irregularities. Contemporary audit is just an incidental. Early audit was manual audit. Contemporary is computerized audit. Early audit, we didn't have issues of a stewardship concept and the agency theory. In contemporary audit, one has to be conversant with this. In early audit, we went for vouching audit. Contemporary audit, yes? Yes, because the notes are already there. Nikukumbusha tu. Si ni kweli? Nikukumbusha tu. Sababu nataka hata wewe uive. Kuna ile design nataka uive. Yes, kwamba points unazinyorosha hivyo mimi natoa hizi points. I want to transfer that to you. Ndio pia na wewe usikie vizuri ukizi-recall offered. Any other question? Tuseme the grace. Now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. Na kukakuwa na mtu anataka kuombesha badala ya kusema the grace, it's welcomed. Yes. Nilikuwa tunafanyaga hivyo, lakini nikaona watu siku yake ya kuomba ikifika anakuwa uncomfortable. Hata anaweza ona klemo wako karibu kumaliza shughuli anajipea ndio asiombe. Yes. So it's important. Kuna watu tusipoomba hapa hawaombi kabisa. I know. Yes. So have a blessed evening.